Hey guys, welcome back to Geeklore here, and we are doing a brand new segment on the channel called Evolving with Pokemon. And this is a channel that is specifically centered on Pokemon lore, Pokemon analysis, and retrospectives on the world of Pokemon. And what I wanted to do in this video is just introduce my experiences with Pokemon. Next year, we have a major anniversary in Pokemon's franchise. Pokemon turns 30 next year, and in celebration of Pokemon, in celebration of my love for the franchise and what the franchise has given me, I wanted to just share my experiences with the world of Pokemon. Before we get started on that, I want you guys to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. I know I haven't been posting a lot of videos recently, but we are far from done. I am developing a lot of projects this year that I am determined to get off the ground. So if you want to know anything geek related, anything geek culture related, please subscribe, please share the video, and let's get excited about the upcoming amazing projects that we have in store for this year and beyond. See you all later, guys. Back to the video. So, yes, obviously I'm excited for Legends ZA for when that game comes out. But I just wanted to talk about what Pokemon was like back when it first came out. Because I do feel like a lot of that is beginning to sort of fade into the background. As we get newer games, as we get newer experiences with Pokemon, the early days of Pokemon just seem to drift further and further away. Pokemon Horizons is amazing, but show us the original show. The new cards are amazing, and they've got and the full arts of those are great. We are receiving the best Pokemon figures that we have had ever. But they don't capture the magic of the originals. We are getting open world Pokemon games, but which I never believed that we would get, and now that is a possibility thanks to the Switch and the Switch 2. But let's bring us back to how Pokemon originally began. Pokemon, for me, began very early in when Pokemon was first initially coming out. A friend of the family had gifted me and her sons a fossil booster pack from America, I'm assuming. It might have even been from the UK. I don't know where she bought this from. But she bought this pack, and in this pack contained a Bulbasaur. And I think it also contained a Charmander as well. And this Bulbasaur card has such an interesting history to it. But this Pokemon card, I brought it to school. I brought the card to school and I lost it. I either must have dropped it or it must have flown away, but I lost the card. And yet a few months went by to... must have been maybe a year, maybe? The card got refound again by me. And I was so excited to be reunited with this Bulbasaur card. And I was so excited to have my Bulbasaur back. And this is my first real initial memory about Pokemon. And about how special just a simple Bulbasaur card can have. I remember owning a Pikachu plush where you pat its head and it begins to move. I remember owning a Togepi, bearing in mind that Togepi was a Generation 2 Pokemon, and it came out in the first Pokemon generation. I remember having the cards. I remember having some of the figures, particularly the marble bottom figures. I remember having a Clefable, and the idea was that you basically hit the thing on a table or something, and they basically collided together as if they were battling. And a major shout out to anyone in the UK that remembers having the candy with the small Pokemon Tomy figures. This is actually how I began collecting Pokemon figures originally. Yeah, I remember having these figures in these Pokeball candies and collecting those. And that was my first real history with the Pokemon franchise. I remember one of my, another family friend and my sister's friend more so, she was playing Pokemon Red on her Game Boy with my sister overlooking her. I remember when the anime came out. The anime was a major thing when I was growing up. I watched the anime a lot, or when I could. So the three major things that I really grew up with during this particular point in history was I grew up with Power Rangers, which again was a major 90s thing. I grew up with Digimon. Now, I will confess I was way more of a Digimon fan than I was a Pokemon fan during this point. But I do think it's poignant the fact that Pokemon has lasted a lot longer now than Digimon has. But we can get into that debate another time. And Pokemon was, again, the other major thing. And what I loved about this was that I would watch the anime, and I remember very, very vividly going to the Pokemon the First movie and watching that film, having the Pikachu card, and I think I may have even had the Dragonite card as well. I remember the same family friend's sons who gave me, whose mother had given me this booster pack. I remember very vividly him having the Ancient Mew card. And I remember these experiences being my first initial stepping stone into this franchise. I also remember playing Pokemon Blue and Pokemon Yellow. And eventually, me and my mum moved over to Abu Dhabi, where again I would continue to collect the Pokemon figures and the Pokemon cards, um, and I remember still continuing to collect Pokemon figures. I remember having a Nidorino that when you pushed its legs, it would go up and down as if it's using a horn attack. And I remember playing Pokemon Gold. Now, Gold, Yellow, and Blue were the 3 games that I would play over and over again. I never finished any of these games, by the way. I wouldn't really finish a proper game until I turned into a teenager. But again, this is how I grew up with the franchise. So, growing up with Pokemon as I became a teenager was a really interesting time. Bearing in mind that Pokemon is not a solitary experience. Pokemon, by game design and by the nature of how the franchise was first initially developed, Pokemon is a game in which you are in collaboration with someone, where constant communication between you and a friend, or even a stranger, is designed to bring people together. And Pokemon did this back when I was in Year 9. And in Year 9, I hung out with my friends and we would all play Pokemon together. One of my friends eventually moved on to playing Zelda, but we would all play Pokemon together. And this was right during the perfect golden years, in my opinion, of Pokemon. Generation 3. Generation 3 had Pokemon Sapphire and Pokemon Leaf Green for me. And these games were, the first real Pokemon games that I completed, with Pokemon Sapphire being the game that I played a lot during these particular years. Pokemon Sapphire is actually the reason why I love the Hoenn region so much. And Leaf Green was the first Pokemon game that I ever completed. And this was such an amazing experience. It was right before the hype of Generation 4, where Pokemon Diamond was coming out. And I remember playing the game. I remember buying the guidebook a few months before its release. And I was in the States at the time, and I read this book every day for about 2 months during the summer. And really, really just enjoying that initial launch. I remember getting the Pokemon figures. I had a Meowth and Electrovia, the evolution of Electabuzz, and I had a Baneri, which I called Jessica after my cousin. And this experience sort of really brought me into this world and this universe, and really added a new layer that my childhood didn't have. And that was the fact that Pokemon could be enjoyed as a collaborative experience with other people and other fans. Now, I went to college when Pokemon Generation 5 came out. So I missed Generation 5 and Generation 6. And I'm really kicking myself now that I missed Generation 5. I think I would have loved those games. And I have recently just played Generation 6, but I never played Generation 5 or 6. And I really didn't come back to the franchise until just before Generation 7 came out. So back when Generation 7 came out, it was right around the time when Birdkeeper Toby, a major shout out to him, by the way, he actually brought me back to the franchise, and his love and excitement that he has for Pokemon is really what's inspiring me to start this series, as well as bringing me back to the franchise. He actually did this poster, as well as this poster, and his love and passion for Pokemon is really what gets me back into the franchise year after year. But I really began to get back into the franchise. I picked up Generation 7 shortly after completing Pokemon Omega Ruby. And Omega Ruby was an amazing game that I just loved. Again, the Hoenn region is one of my favourite regions, and found a completely new experience that I never really had. Obviously, as adults, and even sometimes as teenagers, life just gets in the way. But yeah, really, just as an adult, you tend to get bogged down by a lot of life stuff. And through the virtual consoles, through the Pokemon experiences that I was having, I would just lose myself in the virtual console games and the Pokemon games. I continued to collect the Pokemon figures. I have some of the cards. Not a lot of cards, but I have some of the cards. And I've just collected and re-immersed myself over and over again with Pokemon and with the universe of Pokemon. And that's really what I wanted to share with you today. I wanted to share why these games are so amazing to play. And if you've made it to this far into the video, I want you guys to share links to your videos about your experiences with Pokemon. And I want you to send me your experiences down in the comment section below about what your experiences with Pokemon is. Because I'm hoping that with this new series that we're doing on the channel, we can really begin to take a step towards enjoying and making Pokemon a collaborative experience, and really re-immersing ourselves back into Pokemon as Pokemon enters its 30th anniversary.